Welcome back, Heinekins. This is Module 1 TradingView Overview. We're now on Lesson 6. In Lesson 5, we did have a look at customizing a whole bunch of your chart settings. You can remember how much cleaner it is over here and a bunch of things. In this Lesson 6 today, we're going to be looking at customizing a few things such as your time frames, perhaps even favoriting one or two candle types. We'll have a brief look at indicators, and that's what we're going to do. So let's get straight into it. At the moment, we're still on gold, and gold is up a little bit since we last looked at it, but we are on the day chart. Now, how do we know that we're on the day chart? If you might remember in your settings, you could have on your canvas, you may well have the watermark that shows the ticker, i.e. the name, and or the interval, meaning the time frame. And there it is. You can change those colors. You can have it there if you don't want it. Like I generally don't have it. Why? Because it says right there. Okay. But how do we change now if we wanted to look at, say, gold or Bitcoin or Tesla or whatever it might be on a different time frame? Now, there are a number of ways you can do it. First up, if you just start typing anywhere here in the charting area, I've just typed in a 1. All right, so that's going to give me a 1 minute, but maybe I want 60 minutes, i.e. an hour. All right, so you could do that. There's a little information, little button there that does give you more information on that. 1 second, you type an S. If, for instance, you can also do it in this manner as well. 1 hour, 2 hour, 4 hour, right? So let's go to the 4 hour for gold, whatever it is. And what it'll do is it'll change that time frame. But this gets a little troublesome. So there's an easier way. So what we're going to do, I'm going to go back to the 1-day chart as if we didn't do anything. Yeah, we're back on the 1 day. You can go through this the entire time. However, there is an easier way. You'll see up here in that status bar right on the top, all right, there is a search bar, which we'll cover a little later in another lesson. There are a few other ways to find coins, which we will cover, but for the moment, right next to that is a D. D for day, 1-day chart. Now, what do? You click that. And what it's going to do, depending on which version of TradingView you have, i.e. the free version or a paid version and a number of things. This is currently the free version of TradingView on this account. And these are the number of options that you might have. So let's give it a go. Maybe we want to see the 1 second chart for gold. Oops, we can't do that. All right, so you need a paid version specifically. Premium is recommended. You could try the essentials, although the plus version as well, but we'll get into that a little later. We did touch on that in lesson 1 way back in the beginning. But let's go back to this. Now, you will notice that a few things, probably the second charts, are not available for you. Again, depending on your paid version or free version of TradingView. However, these are all available for you. Right? So as you go down, you might want to look at minutes, but unless you're doing something called scalp trading, which is trading crypto in a matter of minutes, you're not going to need those. Some of you might, however, want to look at something like gold or Bitcoin, etc., on a 1 hour chart, 2 hour, 3 hour, 4 hour chart, or even a day, week, and so forth, right? But now, cool, I click on the 1 hour chart and there it is. Okay, lovely, easy enough. But this is going to get a little irritating, right? If every single time you want to go and change the time frame, I now want to go to the 4 hour, I click on it. Okay, click on this. And again, it may well still have the letter D for 1 day and you haven't done anything. You're waiting for me to show you what you're going to do. And what you want to do here is you see that little star. Now, this is going to be the cue for not only for timeframes, but also for indicators and a few other things that will add it to a list of favorites. Now, where will I start to see that list of favorites? Because right now, I just see that there. So click on it, hit the star, and say we want the 4 hour as well. Maybe we want the 1 day, maybe we want the 1 week. And as I'm doing that, you can't see it until I click out of this. You're going to see there they are. And basically, it's a shortcut to get to all of these. So very simply, click on the day chart. That is the day chart. Each day here is each candle here at least is 1 day candle. Let's have a look at the week chart. And there it is. All right. And it's so easy to be able to switch between the time frames by doing that. Sure, you could also then use these at the bottom, but these are all very much larger time frames. I mean, sure, 1 day, 5 day, a month maybe, but these will get a little crazy. So sure, click on the 1 month. There you go. All right. And it gives you everything. However, in this situation, it's actually opened up a 30-minute chart, which is very interesting. All right. Now that we have favorited them, they're all appearing up there on the top. And it's very easy to be able to then cycle between a 4 hour or a day or whatever it might be. These over here are options as well, but as you hover over them, you're going to see it'll show you the day chart, but using 1 minute intervals. So it'll show you your entire day, but using 1 minute. This is going to show you 5 days worth of candles, but in 5 minute intervals, i.e. on the 5 minute chart. You want to have a look at the 1 month, but it'll use 30-minute candles to show you an entire month on your screen. If you go on to 6 months, it's going to show you 6 months of this data or candles, but using 2 hour candles. So let's have a click there, and you're going to see it's going to pull that data, and that is exactly 6 months, but using 2 hour candles. All right, so let's go back to the day chart and just keep it simple, all right? Remember, we did practice before, learning how to manipulate your chart. We're back here. Now, this might pop up because that was what you were last looking at in terms of that 6 months over there, but it was showing 2 hour intervals. What you can do if you like to remove that, because it's not favorited, you can favorite it and then unfavorite, and it will disappear. So don't stress too much. The other part we mentioned as well are candles. Now, generally, most traders use normal candles or just candles. You could use hollow candles, but the way that those candles are calculated is different. You might have heard of something called Heikin Ashi candles. Some people prefer just to use a line or line with markers. They all use different calculations as to where the candles are. So to keep it simple, for instance, you can keep it on candles. You don't need to favorite it because that's always going to be there. However, if, for instance, you wanted to use candles and alternate between hollow candles, it'll pop up there. So if I click that, I can then switch between hollow and normal candles and back again. However, I don't really use hollow candles. It's simple enough. You can unfavorite that. It's different. It's disappeared, and it remains there with normal candles. The other part, last part, is indicators, and similar thing as well. Once you start looking at different indicators, and you find that you have a favorite one, whatever it might be. These are a whole bunch that have been written by coders, by traders, for the community of TradingView. They are open source. If, for instance, you wanted to have something called prime numbers, you could click on it, add it. We'll get into that later, but the same principle remains regarding favoriting, and that will then create what we call a favorites option. See, if I unfavorite that, it disappears. And as you start to favorite, it'll add a bunch of these. You might know of an indicator, you would type and search for it there. It would pop up. You would also then favorite it. So anytime I wanted to see which of my indicators are my favorites, I can go to my favorite list. But as I unfavorite and remove, it removes all of those as well. So that's how favoriting works and how it would then be able to add those indicators to a favorites list. There isn't one now. Same with the candles. But most importantly, the main lesson from today was all about favoriting your favorite time frame, and so that it pops up there. Well, thank you for joining here. Lesson 6, Heinekens. We are going to be getting into the very next thing in lesson 7. And that's going to be a little more exciting because we're going to start to look at some of these over the next couple of lessons. Thanks for joining. Catch you on the next one.